Hello, welcome to the Microsoft Cloud Adoption webinar series. Today I'm going to present the fourth part of webinar series on Microsoft Cloud Adoption Framework. In short, we also call it a CAF. In this webinar, we are going to focus on getting ready for cloud adoption phase, which is the fourth phase in cloud adoption framework. My name is Vivek Bhatnagar. I'm a CTO and founder of UnifyCloud. My day job is to help customers uh, in migration and modernization of IT systems and applications on Microsoft Azure. So let's get started with this. There are four objectives in this for this webinar. The first is to understand the simplest of migration, which is lift and shift. These are the workload which actually doesn't require any significant investment in changing their business logic or code or deployment architecture or nothing like. So you can simply take these workloads and move into the cloud. So what things you have to keep in mind while doing this lift and shift migration. The second part is we talked about what if companies want to innovate while migrating, they want to modernize and they would like to take advantage of the cloud, maybe to expand their businesses, to have more innovation in their businesses, to maybe creating a better user experience, or maybe creation of a disruption in the market. So whenever customer has desired like this, they actually look for application modernization to actually to gain those capabilities, and we will focus that what are the options we have for this application modernization and building that innovation. And finally, we'll learn a little bit about data migration part of it, like that how we can migrate data. And I'm going to mix data migration with application migration in my all phases. So there will not be a separate section for data migration, but I'm going to talk about data migration when I talked about application migration or I talk about application modernization. And finally, again, like we're going to talk also about some tools, templates, and examples that how to do all these things. So just to bring to a specific agenda based on these objectives, we're going to talk to the host, like lift and shift migration, and mainly focus on that what you need to do to make that successful. How do you basically look at or validate that the work you have done before? So before this phase where you start migrating applications, you should have done a very good cloud strategy. Based on that cloud strategy, you have aligned your technology, people, and businesses, and then have a very detailed cloud adoption plan. Based on that cloud adoption plan, you have drove a pre-migration. You have built already a landing zones and other things. So we are assuming these that you have already completed before you arrive on this phase of migration. So here we are going to validate what you have done, whether those things are correctly done or not. So mostly the validation on these, similarly validation of innovation part of it before we migrate and how we have done, and then talked about data migration and finally tools and template. Again, data migration would be merged while I talk lift and shift and innovate. It's not a separate section, but I'm trying to call it out data migration again and again because it is one of the most important part of the modernization, a lot more time, and also important part when you migrate an app. So before I jump into specific this phase, I would like to spend maybe very quick couple of minutes to talk about cloud adoption framework, because some of you might be jumping directly to this module and they might need a little introduction on cloud adoption framework. Um, the cloud adoption framework serve a very important purpose from a customer and partner purposes. As companies move to the cloud, and they actually get a lot of flexibility on how they are using resources in the cloud. So you can a lot of flexibility in creation of resources, a lot of flexibility in how you are using those resources. There is also flexibility on, like, if these companies don't want to control end-to-end resources and just want to have a managed resources. So in that perspective, cloud has a lot of flexibility, but it also need a very responsible approach to use it properly. Otherwise, there will be a lot of cost overrun and other issues. Um, and cloud adoption framework is one Microsoft guidance which help you with this need. It help to guide your decision through your cloud adoption journey. It actually bring one Microsoft approach, consolidate all their best practices, not only from Microsoft employees, but from partners and customers also, and bring it as one body of knowledge for you to use while you are taking on your cloud adoption journey. This framework also give you a set of tools, like it also listed down a lot of guidance and has a lot of narratives, which will help you to shape your technology, business, and people strategies. And you can drive the desired business outcome during your cloud journey. So it's a very useful tool. I highly recommend to follow or at least to follow it to validate what you are doing while you're doing your cloud adoption journey. And one more slide on this, which will actually lay down uh, typically different parts of cloud option framework. And on the paper, on the slide, it just look like a linear framework, but it is an iterative framework. So each of these small boxes are set of functions, a set of processes and tools which achieve a particular function, and you can do in a life cycle fashion. You can always use this framework also in an iterative manner, like you don't need to migrate and modernize everything in your company. You can pick up a small piece of your digital state and then apply this framework to basically migrate and modernize into the cloud. If you look at this framework, it has mainly only three parts. The main three parts are plan, ready, and adopt. And these three plans are preceded by a very well-defined strategy, cloud strategy, which is driving your end-to-end, and then also surrounded by governance and operational aspect of this framework. In case of a cloud strategy, which we have already spoken in one of our session, mainly like how do you understand the most important word, why you want to go to the cloud, what are your motivations, what are the business outcomes you have agreed with your management, what are the business justification for those outcomes, and how do you select the first project to move. All these things fall into business like cloud strategy, and is a very standard way of documenting your cloud strategy. Then you move to the plan based on that cloud strategy. You look at your digital state, you look at your company skills of the people, you look at your organization alignment, whether you have all kinds of people for implementation and governance, and then you put together a very solid cloud adoption plan. That's what all about planning, which we have discussed in detail. When you have this strategy and plan in place, the third thing is to get ready that your cloud environment to host your assets, like digital assets you are bringing your digital assets which are actually running your processes and running applications for your. So how do you prepare the environment? How do you make sure that it is compliant, it is secure, you are doing all the things which is required to run these and achieve your business objective? And how do you start building it from simple to complex, and what are the helps available, what Microsoft give you, blueprints and other things. So that's all in readiness, and then bring it to the final phase, fourth phase, which we are going to talk right now, which is adopt. Adopt is nothing but combination of two approaches, which are quite distinct approach. One is the migrate approach, which is essentially rehost, lift and shift, no major investment in while migration. Like there's no talks about any changes on code or architecture. Just you are running VMs here, you're running VM in the cloud, or you are having a network in here and you have a network in the cloud. Mostly like mapping of your assets, not exact mapping, but you're just moving to the cloud. And you might do a little bit process improvement, but it's just a migrate thing. Then the things come called innovate. Innovate means that when you would like to do a substantial improvement in your processes, in your business processes, and to improve those processes, you look backward and see that how I can improve my application and assets to support that processes. And that's where you try to modernize while migrating to the cloud. And then you look at that how do you get like your business objective. And business objective may be multiple ways. You might be planning to use data in a different fashion. You might be planning to improve the user experience. You might be planning to support multiple devices, or you might be planning to support to multiple partners. So it's multiple innovation you can build in, and that's called innovation, like called modernization. It is a bit difficult to do, and we need to be very, very careful to manage these projects may take like many months sometime, and may take multiple iterations, so need a lot of patience. We're going to talk about these, and then the next session we are going to talk about mostly in governance framework and operational side of it. That how do you manage once you are on Azure? How do you manage security, compliance? How do you put together your cost control? So this is just a very brief introduction of Azure cloud adoption framework.